Hello everyone, I'm coming for the energy reading of the week and with my Healing Burnout deck, and I have an announcement. Sorry, my face is very tickly right now. So first we're going to pull a card to know what the energies of the week are supporting this week, so that we know what to focus on in a way. Of course, that doesn't mean that we abandon all other projects, but it means that we leverage the energy. And I want to highlight the fact as a sustainable success mentor, leveraging the energy is so important. Sorry, my cat's been... Okay, you want to go out. Here we go. Leveraging the energy is also what enables you to have more energy generally, rather than pushing against the energy. So this is also why I'm doing these energy readings, so to make life easier for you on the whole, because we all know that life can be full on. It is for me. I don't know if it is for you. And I grab any opportunity to leverage energy, as far as I'm concerned, to make my life more easy, because I no longer lean into the belief or want to feed the belief that you have to work hard for success, happiness, whatever it is that you want. All right, so the energy of the week is, let's pull a card. All right, I didn't expect that at all. It's around grief. But actually, I do have some grief I need to process this week. So I am going to be leveraging that energy. Now, why talk about grief within the context of business or leadership? Well, actually, we are human beings. So if we are grieving something, and it could be that we are pivoting into a new area of business or leadership, or it might be that we've just lost a job or a client. So grief also exists within leadership and within business. It doesn't have to be that your private life influences the rest of your life. And grief is a strange thing, because only last week I went to therapy. I still go to therapy, even though I've done therapy for absolutely years. But there's always more to unpeel. And at the moment, I'm unpeeling emotions that I've trapped inside my body because I've resisted expressing them. And this is going to make sense within the context of this card, so bear with me. I uncovered through energy in my body, when I tuned in and I went within and I listened to what my body wanted to tell me, that for absolutely years I have repressed tears. So I find it very hard to cry. I usually cry mostly when I go to the cinema, which I don't very often anymore, or when I watch a film at home that's particularly emotional. That it's almost like it gives me permission to cry. But the rest of the time I have this armor on. And what I unpacked last week, which I thought was very powerful, I have what's called dry eye syndrome. And how if you don't know this condition, it's basically your eyes start crying or weeping at inappropriate moments, and they do it all the time, and your eyes get irritated. And of course, for me, it's evident that it's linked to the fact that I have been repressing my tears. But up until recently, even though I understood it intellectually, I hadn't gone into the body to release the emotion in a physical way, in an energetic way within the body. So I have great hopes that my dry eye syndrome is going to improve. And what's really interesting is that most people assume, oh, it's an age thing. Actually, no, I think it's an energetic thing, and it's the result of a long-held pattern that I had about not crying when I'm sad, trying to diminish the sadness because I couldn't cope with it, or because I didn't have the mechanism or the tools to deal with it. And very often, actually, I didn't have the comfort from people around me when I grieved. Even as a child, most of us, we've been told don't cry when we are really sad, because being really sad upsets our parents. So we tend to try to get over all those negative emotions so that not to create discomfort in the people around us. But this is actually detrimental to us. And we're going back to the grief piece of it, because when we grieve, we have to allow these emotions to be processed fully through our body and our minds and our hearts. So if we don't do it, this blocks the energy within our body and it can affect our health. So that's already a good reason to process your grief and not to allow it to linger or to suppress it and, pretend to be brave or act as if we're brave or, I'm doing really well. And in the process of grief, I'm really sorry, my face is itchy. There's something going on here. I think it's energetic anyway, so that's interesting as well. In our society in the West, and I'm not, maybe in the world, in the country or in the culture that you live in, things are much better. But in the West, we are so encouraged so much to repress our emotions, because it's supposed to be the brave way. If we can cope, we're brave, we're strong. And actually crying and grieving is considered as weak. And that's actually not true. If It's a little bit between, okay, which is strongest, the oak tree or the willow? So the oak tree will be strong, it will be planted, but it's completely rigid. And so there's something, and I do love oak trees. So it's not that I want to diss oak trees, but the willow tree that kind of moves in the wind is much less likely to break. So we consider the oak tree strong, but actually the willow that allows for the energy and the wind to move it. And I'm doing that as a metaphor for the emotions that we feel, is actually stronger than the oak. It's less likely to break down through pressure. So it's important for us to have that flexibility and that willingness to be moved by our emotions. Now, the other thing that can happen with grief, especially in business, but generally, is when we experience something that we think is not a loss or we don't consider it as a grieving process. I had a client I worked with for the longest of time who didn't have children but wanted to. But there was no space around her to express that grief because most of the people around her, especially her family, judged her for not having children, never had the compassion. And some women and men do not want to have children, and that's perfectly valid as well. I think hopefully we'll come to a place in society when these pressures are taken off, in an ideal world, because why is it morally more accepted to have children in a family than not to have any? And of course, sorry about my finger, there's all these notifications coming through. um, in effect, we think that people who don't have children is selfish, but very often they support society in beautiful ways, and in other ways we just have these filters, these judgments, this preconceived judgments. So grief could be for you not being able to have children, regardless of which the reason for it, whether you haven't found the right partner, whether you had fertility issues, whether you were too afraid to have children because of the trauma and the abuse you had as a child and you were afraid to perpetuate it and you didn't know how to be a parent in that context. But then it could be also that you're grieving an opportunity. Perhaps you had applied for a specific role or you wanted to be a leader in a certain context and you didn't get it. That's also a grieving process. And if we push through with positivity, now obviously it's important to have that optimism and that positivity, but first we need to take stock of the negative feelings that we have in us. And I think grieving is partly about accepting that negative feelings are as valid as positive feelings. And one of the things that is so toxic is if you go to a person, for example, who's lost someone, like we're looking like the grief of someone dying, and you invalidate that loss by saying, oh, they're in a better space now because maybe that person had been ill for a long time. Now, this is not for you to say. You can think it, but that thought is actually here to make you feel better about the death and about that person that you know. Maybe it's a friend who's mum or dad has died, or whose partner has died, or maybe a child has died, and you are finding it uncomfortable to sit with that grief or witnessing that person being in such a bad spot. So you're trying to placate it by being positive. This is incredibly toxic, and I need to ask you to stop doing that immediately. All right? So this is where we're at. Gosh, I'm trying to check how long this video has been going for, because I do not want it to go more than 10 minutes, but I didn't check when we started. I'm so sorry. Right, so grief is going to be there, or there's an energy, a universal energy that is going to help us deal with grief. And I suppose in this context, it's going to help us deal with past grief that hasn't been processed. And actually, I've been doing this for the past few weeks quite intensely. So I'm pleased that the energy is supporting it this week, because I'm about to grieve a relationship, which I haven't quite decided yet if I'm going to let that person go, but it's been in the works for a long time, and I need to be very gentle with myself, and also I need to not rush anything, not push myself. There's also this energy which I've been raised with to make things happen and force things, but this comes from ego wanting an outcome, when sometimes you need to allow for things to unfold rather than you pushing for a certain outcome. So this is the energy for this week. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I said I had a special announcement, and the special announcement is that I'm launching a Tarot for Leader online course. And in order for you to understand how I use cards and how I use the tarot, I'm running a free webinar on the 27th of May at 7 p.m. UK time. There will be a recording for those of you who are not, who can't attend because of time constraints. Although, because it's going to be quite interactive, I really encourage you to sign up and show up for it. So you will receive the link to sign up for this webinar if you join my newsletter. I will add the link to sign up for my newsletter here under this video or above, depending on what platform you find it. I want you to know that if you come across this video at another time in the year, which is not the week starting the 11th of May 2026, this is still going to be relevant for you, because the universe has a way to bring people to certain themes and videos when it is relevant for you. So even though this video is for universal energies, it can also be for you personally at a particular point in time. So if you come across it through the algorithm or someone tagging you or whatever it is that happens, take it as a sign that it's important right now. I also want to show you my brand new leadership oracle deck, which I'm super excited about. And I'm going to start doing free readings on LinkedIn. So if you're not connected to me on LinkedIn, and I know this video is going to be on LinkedIn as well, in a way, the algorithm doesn't show everything to everyone. If you want to be notified when I do one of these threads where I will do 10 readings with this deck, sign up for my newsletters as well, because I will be sending a quick email to people to let them know when a specific post has been made and where to go to get those free readings. Thank you so much for watching. It's been a pleasure to be there for you this week, and I'll talk to you again next week. Bye for now.